Hi, everybody. Welcome to number 3 in our series of the SOB recipe for living life with gusto. And this one is taking control of your day and seizing the day. So it's all about time management, taking control and seizing the day the way you want it to be. Now, the first thing, of course, I have to talk about is time management. And time management, I mean, there are so many things to cover in time management. We're not certainly going to get to all of them right now. But there's also the feeling that you don't manage your time, but you master your time. Some people call it time mastery. And so I think I've been very good at this because I've always been a multitasker, which is not supposed to be too good, but that's what I've always done. I've always done many things at one time. And I've had to be able to manage my time because of it. And I will tell you that when and this has changed as I've gone through different businesses and I've gone through different lifestyles and so forth. This has changed how I manage my time. But the important thing is, you know what you have to do. You know what your responsibilities are. And it may be one thing if you're employed in a job, there are responsibilities you have, and you may not have a say in how and what you do. On the other hand, if you own your own business, you do control a little bit more, but you are responsible. If you have a team, you are responsible for your customers and to your vendors and to a multitude of people. And if you are no longer working, you know, that's the toughest of all, because if you don't have a schedule for yourself, you're really never going to get anything done. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So time management is the first thing that we're going to talk about. One of the things that is the key to good time management is the discipline that you have. Do you have the discipline if someone asks you to do something and it's not on your agenda and you don't have the time for it? Do you have the discipline to say no? Someone said to me the other day, did you know that no is a complete sentence? I thought that was just brilliant. No is a complete sentence. And I was talking to one of the women who I coach, and she does very well. She's makes a lot of money, but she has a lot of responsibility. And her company was just bought by a bigger company. And I called her and I said, well, how are things going? And she said, well, you know, everything is going well, but I do get a lot of phone calls at 10 o'clock at night and at 9 o'clock at night, and I get all these emails. And I thought to myself, you're open to that. You could say no. I mean, unless it's something that is coming from, let's say, China or something where they're a totally different time frame and you have to be available at all these weird times. Why on earth would you make yourself available at 10 o'clock at night? In fact, isn't it Google or one of the bigger companies that now says they will not be texting anybody after 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, and people can shut off their phones and they can shut off their computers and they don't have to pay attention to anything after that time, because people were just working all the time. So you have to take control of this. And if it is not on your agenda, then you just don't do it. You say, no, this is not a convenient time. And you know, one thing I found out also, when people came into me with a problem and they wanted an answer right then and there, and I said, well, I don't have time for it right now, but come back about 5 o'clock, you know, just when we're ready to close up. Nobody came back with it because they didn't want to take the time at 5 o'clock to get an answer. They figured out how to do it themselves. I also have a friend who's very successful in business. He does not allow anybody to come to him with a problem if they don't also come with a solution. All of his meetings are less than 15 minutes, and his meetings are standing up. Boy, I can tell you, people go through agendas very quickly when they're standing up, and when they have to come in with a problem solved, and even if, you know, they may not get it okayed by him, but if they come in with a solution, things go a lot quicker. So time management means you need to control the day, you need to control what you're doing, you need to control who you're talking to, and you need to control what you say yes to. And that does take a certain amount of discipline. One of the other things that's very, very important to do is to group like tasks. If you group like tasks, you'd be surprised how much quicker they will go. For example, if you have to make 10 phone calls, don't make 10 phone calls throughout the day. Group those calls. Make all 10 phone calls at once. Maybe you won't get a hold of everybody, but you can certainly leave a message. You can tell people what you need, and they can call you back. And you can also tell them when you're available. Don't have someone call you back all day during the day. Say, please call me between 2 and 4. I'll be at my desk then. Otherwise, you can play telephone tag all day, or you can also get calls interrupting you at all various times. So if you have to do telephone calls all at one time, geographically, if you're doing errands or you've got certain tasks that you have to do that are from your car, then group them together. For example, this morning, I don't have a copy machine or a fax machine where I am. Something had to be faxed, believe it or not. So I had to go, and I went first and I faxed from a particular area. Then I had to drop off dry cleaning. They were in the same area, but a block away. Then I had to go drop something off, which was another block away. And then I went and did what I had to do, my appointment. And then I had to get milk. I had run out of milk, so I had to get milk. And that was on the way home. So basically, I did 4 tasks, which took me probably a total of 12 minutes instead of driving back and forth and back and forth. And I know people who never think about that. And they go to these different places and they go and then they come back. And then they go and then they come back. And then they go and then they come back. What a waste of time. Group your like tasks. If you have to read something, pile up 5, 6, 7 pieces of correspondence. Read them all at one time. If you have to write checks, write them all at the same time. Or if you do online banking, do it all at the same time. But when you group like tasks and you do them together, it saves you time. I also want to talk about goals. Now, everybody that's listening to this, you all know what goals are, and you know that there are short-term goals, medium goals, and long-term goals. But the time frames have changed. When people talk about short-term goals today, they're talking about goals that could be from this week to maybe at max 90 days. Those are short-term goals. Used to be a short-term goal was 18 months. Now it's 90 days. A medium goal or a midterm goal would be today somewhere that would probably between the 90 days and at max maybe 6 months. So think about that, because midterm goals used to be up to 18 months, 3 years. And long-term goals, which used to be 5 years and 10 years, and in the case of many Japanese companies, they looked at a 100-year plan. Now long-term goals are anywhere from 18 months to 3 years, because there are so many changes going on that you just can't believe that something, there are so many technologies that we have available to us now that weren't even here 90 days ago. So it's so key to make sure that you understand that the goals that you have in front of you, when you look at short-term or medium or long-term goals, what the actual length is. It could be from 1 week to the very max of 3 years. Now, the important thing that you really have to ask yourself in conjunction with that is, and that's why when I was talking about, writing in your journal in my last segment, does anything that you did today have to do with where you want to go in life? In other words, one of your goals, whether it be short, mid, or long term, we get so caught up in we have to do this and we have this task and this task and this task, but they have nothing to do with where we want to go. So that's why when we told you to take a look at your day and make sure that it was the day you wanted, that has to be plugged in. All the things that are going to get you to where you want to go have to be plugged into that day. And it has to be tied to a short, medium, or long-term goal. Key to getting things done and getting where you want to go. So many people are just kind of on rote. They just get up and do the same thing every day and go to bed. And in fact, I was watching something today when I was eating lunch, and they measured this teenager, I guess he was about 16 years old, how much time he spent on his phone. And it went from 3 hours a day to, like, on the weekends, 10 and 12 hours. I couldn't believe it. I don't know how anybody could spend that much time on a phone unless if they're a salesperson or a telemarketer. I don't know how anybody could be on their phone that much time. But anyway, he was. And so So many people are on road and do the same thing over and over and over again. So I want to make sure that what you do in your day is meaningful and moves you towards your goals. One of the things that you also have to do with your to-do list, if you have a to-do list, which I'm sure you do, everybody does, you have to prioritize it. And a priority is an A, B, or a C. Now, an A priority is something that's urgent and important, and it's got to be done. A B might be urgent but not important, important but not urgent, and will probably get done after your A's. And your C's, you're never going to get to. However, a C could become an A. Let's say you needed tires for your car. That would be a C until you get a flat. When you get a flat, it becomes an A. So an A, B, or C, remember what they are, but let's say that for some reason, everything on your to-do list is an A. Then you have to rank it. A1, A2, A3, A4, and whatever happens, you need to work on A number 1 first. So you always get the most important, the most urgent, and the one that's the biggest priority for you. Now, what happens? We do the easy things first because we like to scratch things off our list. So we do the ones that we can say, oh, we did that, oh, we did that, oh, we did that, and before we know it, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So you really have to pay attention to that prioritization list and the A number 1, A number 2, A number 3, key parts for you to get through your day and do it well. Prioritization, very, very important, and then rank order. Now, sometimes your priority is not someone else's priority, and sometimes their priority becomes your A number 1. So you have to decide, what is your circumstance? Are you independent? Are you someone who is working for someone else? Does this priority have to do with family issues? Does it have to do with kids? Many of you might be grandparents, and you might have responsibilities with your grandchildren. I am really amazed the number of grandparents in this country who are raising their grandchildren. It's in the millions. I think it's up to 4 or 5 million now. It's amazing. And sometimes we're the ones that have created this because we evidently did it to our kids. We did not raise responsible kids if they're not raising their own children. But there's like 4 to 5 million grandparents at least in this country raising kids. And so what are the priorities? Are they community? Are they family? Are they work? Are they financial? I mean, those are things you have to look at. But whatever it is, remember, A priority, B priority, C priority, probably not going to get to. The next thing you have to look at is your daily schedule. Okay, how do you plan your day? And the reason I ask you this is because you all have different responsibilities. Some of you are working. Some of you, in addition, have elderly parents that you're caring for. Some of you have adult children living at home. Some of you are, again, as I said, responsible grandparents. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. So you need to plan out your day, and you've got to schedule it so that you take in traffic patterns, you take in other people's time, because not everybody goes to your schedule. I mean, there are people are always going to be late. There are people that don't get their work done. And so you have to look at all of this. When you're planning your day, you take all of that into consideration, because otherwise it's going to mess you up. And for example, I have a son who I know is always late. We used to always say, well, if we were going to be somewhere at 1:30, we would tell him to come at 1 o'clock, because then he would come at 1:30. So, you have to know your patterns and so forth. However, it's really, really important that you plan out your day and you schedule it. And don't schedule yourself so tight that you're going to be late for things, that things aren't going to work out. Now, there are times that there are circumstances you can't control. If there's an accident on the road and you're stuck in traffic, what can you do? And when you're on a highway, especially, or a throughway, and you're stuck there, there's no place for you to go, that's an exception to the rule. Most of the time, you should do a pretty good job of scheduling your day. Now, what about these impromptu events, or people that love to come in and interrupt you? I was doing a program on time management for a company, and the CEO had me in his office, and it was really funny, because every time he wanted something, I said, well, it would be great if I could look at this, or it would be great if I could look at that. he would call his secretary, ask her to go get it and bring it in. And I'm just making a mental note of it and scratching on a little pad, you know, how many times this happened. Well, in the 30 minutes that I was with him, I think he must have called her 11 times to bring things in. And of course, she knew where everything was and she brought it in. And I said to him, do you realize how many times you called your secretary? And he didn't have a clue. And I said, well, I wrote it down. You called her 11 times. I said, now what would have made it more efficient is if you had written down on a sheet of paper the things I asked for. And when I was done, you called her in and said, Dr. Carson needs these things. Could you get them to her before she leaves? And that secretary would have known where everything was, would have handed it to me, and it would have made her life a lot easier. And she would have gotten the things that she needed to get done in her job. So how do you handle interruptions? Again, you have to decide who's in control. If it's an interruption that's very necessary and you have to take care of it, you do it. If it's an interruption that you don't have scheduled, or it's an interruption that, for example, you just don't, you know, it's not your time to do it, you don't do it at that point. And again, if you let people interrupt you, it's going to take away your entire day. Now, on the other hand, is that your job? In other words, if I'm in customer service, my job is to be interrupted all the time because I'm dealing with customers who are walking in, who are calling, who may be emailing me. I am dealing, that's my job. My job is interruptions. On the other hand, if I'm a manager or if I'm working as a person working out of my home, or if I'm in any situation where that's not the circumstance, when someone makes a phone call to me, interrupts me by walking into my office, you know, that's an interruption that I can control. So only accept interruptions when they are extremely necessary. Now, the other thing is, I always suggest you keep an interruption log. In other words, when somebody comes in unscheduled, write it down. And guess what you're going to find out? There are not a lot of people interrupting you. They are the same people who are interrupting you over and over and over. And so you need to lay out a plan with them. You might say, John, you know, I know that a lot of things that you come to me with are important to you, but it really breaks up my day. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. When you have a question for me, why don't you write it down on a piece of paper? And unless you have 5 or 6 things to ask me at one time, hold them until that time. You know, it's going to frustrate John so much that he's going to solve all these issues himself. And believe me, it makes a difference. You're going to say, well, he may make the wrong choice. Well, he may make the wrong choice, but he's going to find out. And then you're going to find out what kind of an employee he really is. So don't let people usurp your time. And they will do it on the phone. They will do it in person. And they will even do it through email, because there are people that email and email and email. So be aware of that. The next thing I want to talk to you about is delegation. Delegation is so important because most of us hate to delegate. We think nobody can do it like we can. And we're probably right. But the question is our way the best way? And do we really need to do it our way? I'll give you a couple of examples. When my kids were little, you know, I tried to teach them responsibility with all the animals we had. And I always fed the dogs a certain way. I measured it and I made sure it was mixed properly. And I was so proud when I put that dog food out. The dogs loved it. They ate it all up. And then I started having my kids do it. Guess what they did? They dumped it. They dumped in the dry food. They dumped in the wet food and they put it out for the dogs to eat. And guess what? The dogs ate it. They didn't care. Now, it wasn't all mixed up beautifully the way I wanted it to be, but the dogs ate it. Same thing with their rooms. I would say, make your beds. Did they make their bed the way I wanted the bed made? Not at all. Was it okay? Yeah, it was their room, and if they were happy with it, it was okay. So you have to ask yourself, there's a couple of questions with delegation. Number one, is there somebody that I can teach or train how to do it? Is there somebody who has expressed an interest that they want to learn how to do it? And number three, is there somebody that I can hire to do it? So that might be maybe doing it, having someone else, delegating it out or outsourcing it as it's called. But the definition of delegation is not, do you do it like I do? The definition of delegation is, do you do it well enough? That's the key. Does that person do it well enough? Not exactly the way you would do it. And I'll give you another example. I used to have a chain of career schools, and I was scheduling classes a certain way. And I hired a new instructor, and she was watching me schedule classes, and she said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm scheduling the classes for the next week." And she said to me, "Why are you doing it like that?" Of course, what's the answer we always say? Well, that's the way I've always done it. She said, "Can I make a suggestion?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." Well, she showed me a way to schedule classes that was so simple, I couldn't believe it. It saved me 2 hours a week. 2 hours a week. Do you know what that is worth? That's 8 hours a month. There's a lot of stuff as the owner of a business I can get done in 8 hours a month. And that was somebody brand new, but she didn't have any bias as to how it was done. So unless somebody does a really crappy job, or unless someone really does something that is not good at all for anyone, have somebody delegate it. Now, I know the quick answer is, well, I can do it faster. If it's a one-time thing, do it. But if it's a recurring task that you have to do over and over again, and it's not something that takes your genius to do it, then delegate it to someone who has either expressed an interest to do it, that you have trained to do it or can train to do it, or outsource it, hire it out. So delegation is a very key factor for getting things off your plate that don't necessarily belong there anymore. Now, we all have to have time to do certain personal things like eat. We have to eat our lunch. We have to eat our dinner. And as I said before, I hope that you have a good eating, a good breakfast. You know, that's very important. But when we talk about this, when we talk about giving you, I know I used to eat at my desk a lot. And, you know, that's just not something that is healthy for you all the time. So give yourself time to eat. Give yourself time to digest. You can do working meetings. You can do working lunches. But give yourself time to do the things that are important for you, like eating. If you have to do your email, you know, many of us get stuck on this email. Hopefully you don't have those alarms going off all the time. That will drive you crazy. But check your email only when you need to. Don't be on it all the time. And let's say you have to write. A lot of the people who I do work with are writers. They're authors. They like to write reports. They like to write books. They like to write all kinds of different things. Give yourself a time to write. Now, for example, some people say, I want to write a book, but it seems overwhelming to them. Well, do you realize that if you wrote 1 page a day for 365 days, you would have a 365-page book? Well, not really, because out of that, probably half of them are no good. But out of that, you're going to get half of that, you're going to get over a 100-page book. If you spend 1 hour every day writing 1 page, which in an hour you're probably going to write 2 or 3 pages, well, there's your book. So this is all to do with that time mastery approach, knowing what it is you have to do, knowing what your responsibilities are, knowing what it is that you particularly need to do to make your day a complete and full day and take control of your time. So what about this plan for daily living and taking and seizing control of your day? You have to have a routine. That's the most important thing. Even if you're retired, you have to have a routine. Now, people say, well, when I'm retired, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. Have you ever noticed that if you are one of the retired people who happen to be watching this, you say, well, I don't know how I ever got anything done before. I can't get anything done now. It's because you don't have a routine. When you went to work every single day and you had to be at work at a certain time and you finished and you had certain responsibilities and you had a family and you had to get shopping done and you had to get your kids to soccer and to whatever, you got it done because you had a routine. And you probably even had a calendar on the wall that scheduled all these things. Well, now you're footloose and fancy free and you don't have a routine because you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, and you don't get anything done. So I am a firm believer you've got to have that routine. You need to schedule and block out your day, whether it's going to exercise, whether it's going to a class at Oasis, whether you're learning a new language, whether you're taking a course on some kind of new technical thing for your computer, whatever it happens to be. You need to block out the time so that you know what you have available. So make yourself a routine for the day. Now, some people like to do it on their smartphones. I'm a paper person. I like to see my schedule in front of me. I like a paper calendar. I like a paper to-do list. I just like to see it. I'm a very visual person, and it's better for me when I see it laid out in front of me. But if you want to do it on your smartphone, if you want to do it on some kind of computer, however you want to do that, that's fine. The most important thing is that you pay attention to it and follow it. That's the whole key to getting things done. A lot of people make all these fancy schedules and all these fancy times, and then they don't pay attention to them. What is the point? So again, follow the schedule that you have created for yourself. So the question becomes, what do you want your day to look like? So I do want my day to look like a certain, it is a certain way. I get up and I exercise. If I have any grocery shopping to do, I do it out on that particular time when I'm coming back from the gym. I do my banking then. I do my dry cleaning then. I do any of the errands that I have to do, copy work, copy machines and so forth, faxing, all of that. That's done in the morning when I go to the gym, because all those places are on the way to the gym, so I can get it all done there. When I come back, of course, I take my shower and I get dressed and ready for the day. And then I usually check my email. Usually that's about 11 o'clock. And I will check my email and get that all done and taken care of. Then I stop, because that's usually about an hour, because, I get a lot of email in a day. And most of that is delete, 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 but it does take an hour. And then I have lunch. And then after lunch is when I do some reading, I do some writing. And then about 2 o'clock is when I start making phone calls, if I have phone calls to make. Because most people, if they're going to be in their office, they'll be in their office after lunch, after 2 o'clock. So I make phone calls then, and that type of thing. I also do marketing phone calls. So between 2 and 4, there's a lot of phoning that gets done. Then at 4 o'clock, I check email again, because I checked it at 11, and I check it at 4. And then usually by that time, it's 5 o'clock. It's time for dinner. I do dinner, and I happen to be a worker all day. I do spend my nights working, and I enjoy that. But I do that from, let's say, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Sometimes 9 o'clock, but mostly 8 o'clock. And in that time, normally what I do is I watch webinars. I watch CDs. Or I should say listen to CDs or watch DVDs, but I do all of my training, so to speak, if possible, at night. If it's recorded and I can do it at that time, that's what I do. And then usually about 8:30, that's when I shut everything down. I may check email one more time, make sure I don't miss anything, and then I head off to wash my face, get into bed. My cats crawl into my lap, and I watch TV. I like to watch TV. It relaxes me, and I go to sleep. 11 o'clock, I'm out like a lot. So it's important. That's what my day is like. What is your day like? Can you schedule your day? What do you want your day to look like? And I've often said to myself, okay, Gail, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Well, if I'm not coaching, or if I'm not speaking, or if I'm not writing, or if I'm not doing one of my radio shows, or I'm not doing television, then I'm probably going to a movie or to a play, or I'm with a friend, or I'm going out to eat with somebody, because that's what I like to do. I mean, that is my day. So I need you to ask yourself, what do I wish I was doing that I'm not doing? I'm doing everything I want to do. I study, my courses now that I study all have to do with the work that I'm doing now. And that's why I watch them through webinars or through DVDs or that kind of thing. So it's really, really important for you to say, how do I want my day to look? Some people don't have a clue. I hope you do. I hope you work your day to your advantage. That's the whole key to making time mastery work for you. Sometimes you have to do the things that you have to do to get to the things that you want to do. So there are things like, for example, if I want to eat, I have to go grocery shopping. That's not a favorite thing for me to do. Could I have groceries delivered to me? Yes. But since I really don't know, how exactly what all the brands are, I mean, I'm a great one for going to the grocery store, and I do a very fast trip. But I can pick things off very easily that I want. On the other hand, if I wanted to have my groceries delivered, I could. I'm not a fan. I don't cook. So most of the things I get are prepared foods. And so that's what I do. I microwave great, but I don't cook. So I know exactly what I want to get. So I have to go grocery shopping unless I delegated that out. But to me, that's foolish since I do it in 30 minutes. So what I do is I've got to eat. I have to grocery shop. There are things that I have to fax to people. There are still people using fax machines. I don't have one any longer. So I usually go to Kinko's FedEx and I fax from there. And I try to have 3 or 4 things to fax at one time if I have to do that. The same thing with anything I might need copied. So all I'm saying is you've got to figure out exactly what it is that you have to do to get to the things that you want to do. Once all of those chores are done, I can come back to the office. I can concentrate on what I have to do. I can do these videos for you. I can write another book. I can create another seminar. I can do whatever I want to do, but it's because I've gotten all the other stuff out of the way, rather than have that on my mind and say, oh boy, I still have to go grocery shopping. Oh boy, I still have to get this stuff faxed. Oh boy. No, I get it done, and then I'm able to concentrate on what it is I want to do and how I want to live my day. I want you to create a roadmap for yourself. I want you to create a roadmap for your life. I want you to look and say, what is it that I want out of life? What is it that I want to create? I want you to live how you want to live for 30 days. I want you to take, that's not going to be easy, by the way, because all these other people are going to be clawing at you. If you still have family, they're going to be at you, well, I want this to happen, I want that to happen. Not what you want to happen, what they want to happen. So I want you to decide, what is it that you want in your 30 days? How do you want that to look? And I want you to try your very best to live it that way, to schedule your day, to create the tasks that you have to do, to make that happen. And then what I want you to do is at the end of 30 days, I want you to review it. And I want you to say, boy, this worked great. Or boy, I have to do this a little bit differently. Or there were too many other things that came into my life that I hadn't scheduled, and I can't really schedule my day the way I want it to be. Or what do I have to do to eliminate those interruptions? Or, gee, my partner, my spouse, they had these things they wanted to accomplish, and I had to change my schedule because of that. Because they have a life they want to lead too. Now, some of us have a partner who is totally opposite from ourselves. And that was my situation. My husband was totally different. I'm an extrovert. He was an introvert. I work with my brain. He worked with his hands. He loved to watch football. I mean, and he had televisions in every corner of our home. I think at one time I counted, we had 16 television sets. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm not like that. However, we got along great. Why? Because he had his schedule and his life, and I had my schedule and my life. And when we got together, we just had a ball. And people used to comment, gosh, you guys are so romantic still after all this time. We held hands. We had our arms around each other. We really just enjoyed each other a great deal. And I hope that's the relationship you have with your spouse or your partner. I mean, it's just great. However, I have to say, we were able to do that because we were independent of each other. So I think it's important that if your schedules are not working out, and I know that causes a lot of stress and it causes a lot of aggravation in a lot of families, that you sit down together and map this out. And if you have kids still at home, and they have schedules, you have to be very conscious of this as well. Now, hopefully, many of you have grown children who may be able to drive on their own, to their various events that they have. But if you're still doing the the drives to all the events that they have to take part in, whether it's sports or it's theater or it's music or whatever it is, that's got to be factored in as well. And we really, in fact, I was saying this to my daughter the other day. I was saying, you don't remember, but when we had 3 kids and 2 were close together and 1 was a baby. And I say, your father would take the 2 of you to school and I would take the baby to the babysitter, or vice versa. And 1 would pick up the 2 of you and 1 would pick up the baby. We'd come home. We'd all be together for dinner. We'd make dinner. And then we'd clear the table. My husband and I cleared the table and did the dishes and everything. And then I went back to work because I had schools and we taught classes at night. And then he had built a shop on the side of our house. And he worked in the shop building interiors for stores. And the kids were inside doing their homework and so forth. Well, we worked everything out. That's the way we did it. And on the weekends, Saturdays we both worked. But on Sunday, we piled everybody. I had a little red Volkswagen Bug. It was the cutest thing. And we would go to the beach. We'd hook the boat on. We had a little tiny boat. And we'd hook the boat onto the back of the VW Bug. And, of course, had a sunroof. And the water skis would be up through the sunroof. And the 2 kids, the 2 older kids would be in the back seat. And the playpen would be in front of them. And the picnic basket with all the food and the drinks and everything would be in the boat in a cooler, and then the baby would be sitting on my lap, because in those days they didn't have car seats. In fact, they didn't even have seat belts. So that's the way we went to the beach. And when we got to the beach, everything came out, the cooler, the playpen, the skis, everything was undone. And then we had a great Sunday, and then we packed everything back up again and went back home. And we all worked it out together. So all I'm saying is, whatever your situation is, you have to work it out and you have to live the day you want to live. But at the end of 30 days, I want you to relive this. I want you to go through it, see what worked, see what didn't work, and then do the adjustments that you have to make, because then you will be able to plan for your day. And every day you get better and better and better. Now, I happen to do a time log every single day. I write down how much time do I spend exercising, how much time do I spend writing, maybe what I call marketing, what I call good stuff, what I call dumb stuff. I write all that down because every year I'm trying to get better and better and better at what I do. The interesting thing is, you can actually, if you do some things like saving yourself 30 minutes a day, if you can find an extra 30 minutes a day, I will hand you at the end of the year 22 8-hour days. Now, in a normal work world, that's a month. But if you're self-employed, it's not really a month because you're all working gigantic hours. However, if you can save 30 minutes a day, you will find you have 22 extra 8-hour days at the end of the year. And every year I get 22 days better. Can you imagine that? Every year I get 22 days better. That's why I'm able to do all the things that I do. Because every year I'm finding 30 minutes in a day that I can do better. And it's not easy. It takes discipline. And of course, I always say success equals persistence and discipline, and persistence and discipline. And persistence and discipline are 2 of my best features. So I'm wishing you all success, and I'm wishing you the greatest time master you can possibly get. And we have worksheets for you again, so that will help you as well. But I just want you to have a productive life and a productive day. And the only way you're going to get there is by setting goals and knowing which are short, the medium, and long term, by prioritizing and making sure you're doing your number ones first, and also by delegating, whether it's outsourcing or training someone to do it, and realizing that everybody doesn't have to do it exactly the way you do it. In fact, other people say good is good enough. That's a saying that's been around for the last few years. But the important thing is time management is essential for success. If you don't master your time, if you don't know how to stop the interruptions, if you don't know how to get people to focus in and solve their own problems, if you don't let people take responsibility, I call it accountability. I think it's important that people are accountable. And you would be surprised how many people who might be in your circle who are not responsible or accountable. I mean, I have to tell you one more story because this just floored me. I was teaching how to be a good coach to a group of automobile dealers. I did a lot with the automobile dealers many years ago. And I was teaching them how to coach people. And one of the dealers said to me, well, you know, I have this woman and she doesn't ever seem to get in on time. And it's important she gets in on time because she has to answer the phone. She has to direct the calls. It's really important she be there on time. And I said, and I thought, you know, he was going to tell me, well, she was a new hire or this had been going on for a month. And I said to him, well, how long has this been going on? And he said to me, 8 years. And I just broke up. I said, 8 years? I said, if you have been paying her salary, if you have not reprimanded her at all, if she gets the same salary for coming in late every single day, or at least the majority of the days, for 8 years, why should she change? And he just looked at me like I had said this fantastic thing. But we are not holding people to accountability, to their responsibilities. And therefore, it puts more responsibility on us, and it gives us more to straighten out and to get better and to do more of. And I'm trying to help you with that. So when we talk about all of these different skills and all of these different things that you need to do, it's all part of this time mastery system. So I'm hoping this was helpful for you, and I'm hoping this will allow you to gain your extra 30 minutes every single day so that I can hand you, at the end of the year, 22 8-hour days.